G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video and welcome back to the next round of the official Nations Cup GT World Series that we're running for 2022 in Gran Turismo 7. We are driving Group 2 and we are driving, we're at, hold on. Topless, topless. We're at Topolis today. That's Autopolis International Racing Course, for those of you that don't speak vomit. And it's a track that makes me, as you could probably tell, rather ill. It's a pretty gross track, and we'll talk about why in a minute, but it's not a track that I race on too often. I tend to avoid it like the plague, so you probably have never seen it on my channel before. For those of you that aren't aware, Autopolis International Racing Course, it's a real-world circuit, so it's not even Polyphony Digital's fault. It's whoever designed this track, which I think should be imprisoned, because it's that bad. 19 turns here, we're snaking around in Japan for 4.6 kilometers. And it's only got one overtaking spot, which is part of the problem, down at turn 1. But that's the first tour. Let's talk a little bit more about the specific layout and where you can get moves done and such. This is the main straight. It's about 900 meters long, and we're racing down towards pretty much the only overtaking spot on the track. Turn 1, which is a blind apex and drops down, so you can easily misjudge it too. Then we head through turn 2, easily flat out. Heading up towards turn 3, this is a funny little section here, a little handling section, and that's not so bad. It's mainly the sector 3 actually, but we head through here, a right hander followed by 2 lefts into a hairpin, so another hairpin. However, because it's followed by a funny little sequence, preceded rather by a funny little sequence of corners, it's kind of impossible to overtake. We have this long sort of aero limited left-hander heading up this tiny back straight up towards a really difficult hairpin, because you can see it's sort of over a crest and the peak of the crest is right on the exit, or sort of right in the phase of the corner when you want the car to rotate. But because it's preceded by a long aero limited left-hander, if you're in a car like this, all the car gaps stretch out because of the dirty air. And that's the main problem with this third and final sector as well. Yes, there's 3 sectors here, I believe. That's the problem with this sector. Look at all this. It's just all these little flowing sequences of corners, one after the other. And all this does is make it so that all the gaps between the cars stretch out. And that is right before the main straight, which is the only real overtaking opportunity. But so, if you're trying to construct a move for turn 1, you've got to go through all that final sector, which is just going to extend the gap to the car that you're going to overtake. And we're going to see the perfect demonstration of that here on lap 4. You can see the gap to Meta 7 ahead is half a second, 0.5 of a second, and let's go through this lap and see how that gap changes and see how it fluctuates depending on what parts of the track we're through. Keep in mind the slipstream range in Gran Turismo 7 is 1 second, not 3/4 of a second as it was in GT Sport. So as long as we're within 1 second of Meta 7, we're going to be feeling some aero detriment, some decrease in the aero performance on my car. You can see we're all driving the Honda NSX, the 2016 Honda NSX GT500, no longer called the Raybrigg NSX. But we've gone through that long left-hander that we spoke about before. That gap has just equalised at exactly 1 second, 1.009. Heading up towards this top hairpin, try and straighten out the exit as much as you can as it drops down. Easy to oversteer. That gap still is hovering at just about a second, 1.09 now, so Meta 7 did gain ever so slightly. Heading through here, we should be able to get through there okay, and you can see when we were out of the dirty air, we managed to actually gain through those couple of corners. Now we're about 8 tenths behind. We are actually gaining ever so slightly here, but as we head through here, which is really awful with Dirty Air. That gap has opened up again to 9/10 of a second. Another corner that's quite awful for Dirty Air. It's got to just come out of the throttle ever so slightly so as to not go off the track. And then we've got another one where all you want to do is get your car to turn so you can head out onto the main straight. And that gap has opened up to exactly 1 second again. So as you can see, what's happening there is sort of we're bouncing in and out of the slipstream range. Once we get out of it, we can keep up, so we can keep that gap at about a second. But as soon as we make a little gain and get back into the slipstream range, so the Dirty Air range of the car ahead, we sort of get pushed back out because we get less downforce on the car because the car ahead pushes it all out of the way. And as you can see, that's exactly what happened for like 10 laps. We're here through lap 10, and we're still a second behind until we make this error. We just run a little bit too wide out of that left-hander. It's turn 8 here at this track. And Corey Hack, that was stalking me and probably falling victim to the exact same dynamic that I was suffering with Meta 7, he's now been able to get past. And the eagle-eyed amongst you may realise that we haven't taken a pit stop yet, so the tyre wear is pretty terrible at this stage. So I was kind of just sitting here in this position at this particular stage off the back of that mistake going, oh, well, that's it. That's all I've got, because I'm not going to be able to overtake Corey again thanks to all of the Dirty Air. And the tyre wear as well just makes this car really difficult to drive and really unpredictable in terms of how much it's going to turn, how much it's going to oversteer, how much it's going to understeer, how much it's going to grip up through some of these grip-limited corners. But yeah, no, so yeah, not ideal. You can see why I'm not enjoying this race, but we skip ahead to the final lap where the people up ahead have kind of closed in. Corey Hack has caught up to the back of Owa Yogurt, who I think fell victim to an overtake of Meta 7. Oh, yellow flag's out. Maybe we can potentially pick up another position as we round the corner. The yellow flag seemed to have disappeared, so maybe that person fell out of a group way up ahead and is just about recovered by the time that we've got to the yellow flag scene. But the only thing I'm hoping for here is, because we're heading into this twisty final section, that one of these drivers in this group up ahead try and go for a kind of a last-ditch attempt at an overtake, which probably is not going to end too well in terms of either a car driving off the track thanks to sort of running side by side through a section that's really single file, or that they end up fighting so much that they lose too much time and gives me an opportunity to actually catch back up, which kind of what's happening. Look, side by side up through turn 15 into turn 16, and they've just lost about 7/10 of a second there. It's down to 4/10. The gap extends ever so slightly as we head through one of the aero-limited corners. We take a slightly different line, wide entry, narrow exit to try and get some benefits. Oh, Yogurt trips up on the final turn curb. We got the slipstream of Corey to assist, and we are able to pick up and scratch one extra position as we head up towards the line, which really... Oh, dear. How embarrassing. I just got nothing. I just don't understand. I should be with Geesh. I should have been able to scrape a top 10 there, but I just wasn't. This just wasn't good enough. I just can't wrap my head around this combination. So yeah, we only were able to get 13th there, which I was obviously rather disappointed with, because I should be able... I mean, I can normally... On a really good day, I can fight for a podium in top split, the first race. But today, down in 13th, when I can fight for podiums in this level of lobby, and I'm only 13th here, it's a little bit disappointing and a little bit embarrassing, and I was kind of just wondering where the hell is my pace around here. Now, I don't think it's helped by the fact that I dislike this track, and that you saw in that race exactly why I dislike it, and you also saw that there was no pit stop as well, so there's no strategy to try and get some overtakes done. There's nothing. It's just an outright sprint in a Dirty Air festival. But yeah, only 175 points for that race, or 170 something for that race before, so we are going to have to go again, and this is the next slot. So our first flying lap there was a 135.0. Some of the really serious operators have not returned for this slot too, so the competition is decreased ever so slightly, so maybe we can get our top 10 here. We got a really good sector 1 there, so a really good turn 1, and then a really crap turn 3, which means that this lap is kind of not really going to be a massive improvement, about 3.5 there to a 34.7. But let's follow on board with this lap. It's going to be slightly faster. Looking on the left-hand side, braking just after the orange mark on the barrier, there's like a little orange painted bit braking just after that on the left-hand side, keep it in 5th down the straight, and short shift to 3rd on the exit of turn 1. Left-hand side again, braking halfway between the little access road and the start of the curb on the left as well, and then just balance the car through here, meet all the curbs, don't wash out too wide here, because we're braking on the end of the curb on the right-hand side for a right-hand hairpin, which you can actually use first gear for rotation, but short shift up to 2nd for the exit. Turning in and lifting off the throttle just on the exit, or just on the end of the curb on the right-hand side, and make sure we don't run wide on the exit here like we did in the previous race. Nice and tight up through turn 9, and then for turn 10, braking just after the second arrow board on the right-hand side. It's also just before the 50-metre board. We're going uphill for that braking zone, which is why we can brake so late. And then racing down the hill, looking on the left-hand side, braking just on the 50-metre board, slight dab of brakes, fly down through turn 11, and then just balance the car all the way up through this section here. This corner can be taken flat, and then braking just before the start of the curb on the right-hand side for the double right-hander of turns 14 and 15. 3rd gear here, leap that curb, but be careful because the car can spin out. Lift off and turn in on the exit of the curb, or on the end of the curb on the right-hand side, and then slight dab of brakes and turn in on the end of the curb on the left-hand side, and then try and balance the car through here. Don't cut turn 19. Exit out onto the main straight, and this lap here, yes, that's better, is finally a mid 34, which I was not able to achieve by any stretch of the imagination in the previous slot. Provisionally 7th, but let's see where that puts us after the Nations Cup introduction. Lovely, as always, we meet ourselves on the grid. Well, I suppose maybe it's not as lovely as always, because it marks the start of 13 torturous laps around Autopolis. But we are in 8th here, actually, so we only got jumped by one person. It was actually Meta7, and he actually only got me by, like, less than half a tenth. So, maybe on a different day I could have beat him, but for this particular race here, Meta7 just about had the edge on me in qualifying. And because of the dirty air, I'm not really even going to have an opportunity to try and sort of catch up to the back of him. So he's done a good job there for qualifying. Qualifying here is ultra important because the overtaking is so difficult. And that's, yeah, for the reasons we spoke about in the earlier race here. But at the start of this one, we're heading into this twisty section, so I'm not going to have a chance to catch up to the back of Meta7. And as we skip ahead to lap 3, that's exactly what's happened here, because that gap ahead has opened up to, you wouldn't guess it, exactly 1 second. Oh, Atom goes for a semi-spin, glances off the inside barrier there, and just loses a position to Meta7. He's also going to have some dirty tyres, which is maybe going to give me a bit of a look in to try and get this 7th position. But basically, it was really important that I got this move done as quick as possible, which probably would have had to happen at that hairpin there, which, as you can see quite clearly, that didn't happen. So, we're about to head into this twisty 3rd sector, which means that this gap to Atom's probably going to open up. So, just keep an eye on that gap. 2 tenths as we head through here. It's opened up to 3 already. It's opened up to 4, opened up to 5 as we head through some of these aero-limited corners. Open up to 6. It's going to open up to 7 tenths in a minute, which it indeed has. Oh, not quite, actually. We gained a little bit of time, maybe Atom not quite getting the braking correct for that double right-hander, but once again, that gap begins to open up half a second now, and as we head through this second-to-last corner, the final real corner, to be completely honest, that gap has opened up to 7 tenths of a second, which is definitely not close enough to be within slipstream range for a move heading down into turn 1. So nothing happened. We set consistent 36s, and as the tyre wears dropped off, we've dipped into the 37s. But what was concerning me at the present moment was just how close Corey Hack was able to actually keep to me. You could see quite clearly that I was struggling to catch up to cars up ahead, mainly due to that dirty air. I wasn't able to get close to Meta7, I wasn't able to overtake Atom. He only extended that gap through the final sector by one mistake. but as long as he was driving consistently, he was not able to fall susceptible to a move from me, pretty much thanks to the dirty air. But there was one person who was bucking that trend for me, and it happened to give me a little bit of a headache. It was Corey Hack behind. He was absolutely heckling the back end of me come lap 8. I was sort of able to keep that gap fairly consistently open at about 6-7 tenths for the first 8 laps, but it was really during this lap 8 where he began to make solid gains. And we saw in the previous race, I actually said it myself in the live radio at the time, that I believed Corey was significantly or considerably faster than me in that previous race, and I was simply holding him up. We've jumped on board with him here to try and see kind of what lines he takes, because if he sort of follows my wheel tracks exactly, he's going to maximise essentially the dirty air effects. So he has to take slightly different lines, maybe taking a wider entry or narrower exit or something to try and minimise how long he spends directly behind my car. And as you can see through this final turn, or second to last, he takes a slightly wider entry and takes a later apex, gets on the power earlier, and it gives him a run down the straight. I'm going to leave his tyre wear on the bottom left of the screen as well, but as you can see here, I've gone defensive for turn 1, and at a quick glance at the tyres, he's actually got better tyres than me. But I defend turn 1 here, stick it directly to the inside of the track and hold the inside for the corner. Sorry, I have to defend, I can't catch Meta. And I've decided that I am going to fight for this 8th position here, because I've spent 8 previous laps not being able to catch Meta 7, so I wasn't all of a sudden going to be able to catch him. So I decided, well, Corey, you're going to fight me, you want to try and get past me, but I think 8th is the best I can do here, so I am going to spend the time and sort of waste the time fighting him. He has better tyres, and that's why I've left them up, because I've tried to get them sort of as close to the same size as possible, and you can see at a quick glance I've got more tyre wear. So I don't really know why I had more tyre wear, to be honest, because I wasn't exactly right under Meta 7's rear wing, which is where you'd expect me to use up most of my tyres. Corey Hack spent the majority of his race within about 7 tenths of me, so he should really theoretically have more tyre wear than me, but he simply doesn't. He just has simply done a better job than me, and that's okay. We're not all good at everything, and this track was really just not my bread and butter, just not my cup of tea, and it's traditionally a round I probably would skip, but I thought, we're in the official season now, and I did feel like playing the game, so I was like, well, let's just give it a red hot crack and see if we can scrape home something reminiscent of a decent point score. But throughout that lap 9, the dirty air has helped me there, because Corey has opened that gap up to half a second, which isn't close enough to be within move range for the best overtaking opportunity at the track, the turn 1 here at the end of the 902 metre long main straight. He gets quite a poor turn 1 actually, and that gap has remained at about half a second. He should have gained down that main straight. He probably gained about a tenth in the slipstream, but he got a poor turn 1, and that gap opened back up to about 5 tenths of a second. He gets a much better entry into this little handling section here. It's these sections where the dirty air should really be an issue for him, but he's just simply able to gain. And it was at sort of this phase where I was wondering, like, how is he managing to stay so close to me through all these corners? And I now realise it's because of the tyre wear. We're no stopping here. The pit loss was simply too long, and the race is too short to be able to make back that long pit loss. So we're all no stopping on the soft tyre, which happened to be faster than the only other available tyre, which was the medium. A no stop on the medium was significantly slower than a 0 stop on the softs, even though we suffer quite significant tyre wear by the end of it. You can see we get tripped up on the curb heading through turn 11 there, and that gives Corey a bit of a look in, 4 tenths of a second now. Hopefully the dirty air can sort of make a bit of an impact on that gap behind. He gains so much ground there. Look at that, 2 tenths behind. He gained so much ground on the braking into turn 14, and unfortunately that gap actually opens up once again. I say unfortunately, I mean unfortunately for Corey, fortunately for me, because I would rather keep that gap as large as possible to do everything I can to keep this 8th position. But that's one more circulation of Autopolis done and dusted, and one less opportunity Corey has to try and overtake, because as we head towards that one overtaking opportunity, that gap is 6 tenths of a second. Really nothing to do. Really nothing possible can be done to get a move from 7 tenths back. But something else I'm also keeping an eye on as we just make sure we keep that gap open to Corey is the cars up ahead. So that pack seems to be closing ever so slightly. So I think what happens towards the end of these no-stop races, because we're on the soft tyres, which is particularly susceptible to tyre wear, if someone drives ever so slightly more aggressively, they're going to have significantly more tyre wear by the end of the race. And now that we're sort of reaching towards the closing stages of the race, those people that maybe drive ever so slightly more aggressively are going to have a quite considerable chunk of extra tyre wear on their car, and I think that's what's keeping maybe some of these cars closer together than maybe the dirty air should allow. So I think it's Atom, Warrior and Meta 7 are the 3 cars up ahead. There's actually 4 cars as well. I don't know who's in that first position actually. I think it's going to be Ranger Oz, Atom, Warrior, Meta 7. No, there's going to be a couple of cars there. I'm absolutely botching my mathematics here, which is not ideal. I should probably just stick to the driving. But while we've been talking there, that gap to Corey Hack, 0.3 of a second. If we exit out onto the main straight with a 0.3 of a second gap, perhaps he may be close enough to slipstream down past me if he takes a slightly different line through this final turn to minimise the dirty air effects and gets a better exit. He may be able to get that done, and as we exit through turn 19, he has indeed got a better exit than me, and he's actually gaining. He's 0.3 of a second behind, and I'm looking behind here thinking, is he close enough? Is he close enough? It would be a dive to get something done from 2.5 tenths back as it was when we jumped on the brakes, and he's not able to get that done. So we've still got 2 more, or we've actually only got 1 more opportunity at that turn 1 to lose the position. So we are going to have to keep an eye out for that and do everything we can through this final lap. But where I was going with that tyre wear chat with the group up ahead is I was sort of beginning to grow a little bit concerned, we'll say, if for somebody sort of engaging in a battle and forcing another car off the track, or another car making a mistake and getting forced off the track, or forcing themselves off the track, just essentially a mistake. Because if someone begins to engage a battle, especially through that third sector, as I mentioned in the previous race, they will fall particularly susceptible to driving straight off the track, because it is such a single file narrow line. Oh no! Atom, mate. And just that has been confirmed. Atom has made a mistake on the exit of the very difficult turn 10 hairpin. He's not having the best time at Autopolis today, and neither am I, to be honest, because it's just absolute shocking experience to be driving around here. But yes, I felt quite bad for Atom there, and it's unfortunate that he is the one that is going to gift me a position here. So I'm up into 7th from 8th on the grid. So it's taken 12 laps to gain a position. I haven't even gained one from an overtake. I've gained one from someone crashing, and it just so happened to be one of my better mates in the game, Atom. But chin up, mate. You're a very talented driver. You will bounce back. It's just one of those really awkward moments where I end up gaining a position from one of my mates crashing. Tyres are gone. But as we go on to this final lap, the last opportunity that Corey Hack really had at turn 1 was there, and he wasn't able to get anything done. But now that we're on the last lap, there's no further laps that we have to save tyres for. Not that I've really been consciously tyre saving, and maybe that's why my tyre wear is quite considerably or quite significantly worse than Corey's. But as we head through this final lap, I'm going to have to make sure I get a really good exit out of here. I actually open myself up there and make myself susceptible by opening up the entry to that long left-hander to give myself the best possible run out of the corner. And Corey was not close enough to capitalise. I got a really good exit up towards turn 10. And on the exit of turn 10, once again, quite a good exit. That gap behind has opened up to 0.7 of a second. So as we head into this third and final sector, it will be quite difficult for Corey to actually be able to gain 0.7. He's gained a couple of tenths through turn 11. I didn't quite get the best of lines through there, but he should be feeling the dirty air effects. Unless I make a grave error, there's not really going to be any chance for him to get 0.6 close to me and get an overtake done with only about 20 seconds of the race remaining. But only a couple more corners to go. The cars up ahead have sort of got a little bit closer to me. The gap to Meta 7 has closed down again to 1.1 seconds or 1.2 as the pack ahead began to fight for a last-ditch attempt at gaining some extra positions. But as we exit the final turn, we are going to be able to keep the 7th position here. Oh, thank God that's over. Man, that was an effort. Bloody good race with Corey, though. He was definitely faster and I was holding him up, but not much I can do. Gotta run my own race. So yes, I was able to pick up 7th there, only gaining the 1 spot from someone crashing, not even gaining a spot from an overtake. But I did manage to bring home 240 points, and honestly, it was a pretty good battle with Corey. Given the track, given the situation, the battle with Corey was quite enjoyable, and he definitely put the pressure on and forced me to use every trick in the book to try and keep that position. I even made myself susceptible to him getting past through turn 8 on the final lap. But it was all to try and get a better exit than him and extend the gap out heading towards the 3rd sector. And on this occasion, we were successfully able to park the bus for a good, 5 laps or so, and fend off Corey, who I did feel was definitely faster than me and who I felt I was definitely holding up. But that's going to finish up this video today, so do hit the like button if you enjoyed, and do subscribe if you'd like to see more videos and streams from me. Do leave a comment as well. Ask questions, comments, and constructive criticism as always. Very much appreciated. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.